Hello, welcome back to the Weaving Magic podcast. I'm your host, Tara Webb.
And I'm your host, Alyssa Lily.
And today we're kind of switching it up. I feel like we've been talking a lot about winter and really being in your katha, being in your rest, respecting that. But even with each season, the doshas exist. And, if you want any information about doshas, we'll link the episodes where we've talked about them. But, there's kapha, vata, pitta. Kapha is more of that water, rock area, ground area. We're just like, don't want to do anything, need to rest, need to just be here stable. Vata is the air and the ether of like, we need to flow and just create and like all that kind of things. I think like the flighty people. And then pitta is the fire of, and water, because the steamy water.
Go.
Let me do it. I have to get it done. And so those are like, when you're doing, especially business things, towards the end, it's kind of when you have to put your pitta more so into gear, because you're starting to get burned out on tasks and stuff, but you're like, I still need to finish this. And so that's when your pitta's like, let's go. Let's get this finished and pushing to that last end. So very much, winter's very much a kapha, and vata too. Because of the windy time. But, as we get into spring, that's more like that is definitely more kapha, and then pitta comes like right after, because that's more of the water and the melting type. But we're definitely
And just to clarify, in case you don't know any of this is coming from Ayurveda. I don't think we said that. Yeah, we'll definitely link an episode below.
Because we have the one specifically with Justine that, she goes even more as a practitioner into Ayurveda. But winter is very much of just that relaxing. And we've talked about not even really doing New Year's resolutions and things. We've been honoring this space of just nothing. I mean, like doing things, but just kind of nothing in a sense. And it's felt really nice, honestly.
It's felt so nice to slow down.
I mean, we have an episode with Leslie coming up, and Leslie was on last year as well. It was a really, high listened to episode. And we talk with Leslie. It comes out in 2 weeks. So just a note that this is coming out 2 weeks from the episode that we had previously. And so we're going to be skipping every 2 weeks for now as we kind of relax and kind of get more into the creative flow, which is what this episode is about, the creative flow. We just kind of need that for ourselves. Let's just say side note, like Alyssa and I are really proud of how we pumped Weaving Magic out last year and the drive that we had for it. Like, not just we're doing it, we're going to get through it. It was like just so much enjoyment. Every single week we had an episode. And to me, that's awesome to be able to get all that done.
It's a huge accomplishment. I'm very proud of us.
Mm-hmm. And when I looked at the episode that came out before this, that's episode 56. Like, that's pretty cool. We have almost 56 episodes. This will be 57. So we are taking that break every other week so that we can record more content, because, there's the Chaotic Cauldron that's also coming out. Alyssa has a program coming out, and so that's like a huge thing that they're launching and like just lit up about. I'm pregnant and really trying to tap into my creative energy again around writing. So as we've talked to y'all about, Magic Weavers, of, taking that time when you need it to create, to just be, we're doing that too. Like, we're honoring our own words, and it kind of feels weird.
It feels good though too. I like that we're moving to a bi-weekly structure for our podcast, because it gives us that structure. We're still having episodes come out on a regular basis for you, Magic Weaver, but also, we may have weeks where we're more creative, and maybe when we want to release more episodes, or maybe we need that space to create things in our own businesses, in our own lives, in our own home. And it allows that flexibility to see what comes through versus feeling forced.
Mm-hmm. And it's also not going to be a long-term thing either. I think it'll be maybe, honestly, in my opinion, maybe a couple of months. I kind of see like us needing it for now. And then as we kind of get more into spring, summer time frame.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, we're really going to be probably pumping out more then, because that's when our energy, like, we talk about flowing with your cycles. And so we typically, even though I'm pregnant, don't really have that. We typically try to record within our cycles too, so that we can really use that pitta energy, that that summer. What phase is that? I get the phases mixed up.
Ovulation.
Actually. Yes, but like, is there an actual term that's not just ovulation? Because there's like luteal.
It's your ovulation phase.
Oh, I thought there was like a word that I didn't know. Like luteal phase, because I forget where luteal is. Like that kind of thing. I make it more like intense than what it actually is. I just know it's summer. I just know.
Yeah, so you have menstrual, follicular, ovulation, a luteal, and then back to menstruation.
See, it's like whenever I was trying to learn waxing and waning and like which one was which. So it's like follicular, luteal, I'm so lunar, luteal are like boom, like my brain, even though it's not that big of a deal because they're not words that we typically play around with. Mm-mm. Menstruation and ovulation is like a very, very common thing.
Hi. Do you want to say hi to our Magic Weaver? Say hi.
That was so cute.
Hi. Okay, bye.
The cutest little interruption. Hi.
Yes. Hi.
I love it.
Bye.
Yeah, so we are going to be like feeling into the energy of the seasons as we record too. And respecting that. Like, I feel like we can't preach it without doing it ourselves, you know?
Well, and I love that we're finding ways to not only integrate it personally, but in our business, in our podcast, in how we show up. And I feel like we're reaching a new level of embodiment, which I love.
Definitely. And, you know, there's that piece, and that's why I say weird. There's that piece of me that's like, no, you should be doing this. Like anytime you say should, right? You should be pushing through. It's your business. You know, you started this way, and the fact that you're not doing every week means you're failing in some way.
You're not allowed to change.
I know that. Yeah. Like, even though I know that, it's like, no, it's okay. It's that little voice of like the patriarchy of just, you know, everything going on of you have to keep doing what you've been doing the entire time. And it doesn't make sense.
I wonder, because I feel like that shows up in so many facets of life. Yeah. How may that be impacting you, Magic Weaver? That voice telling you that you have to keep doing it because that's the way it's always been done.
I mean, even if you think about your own precedent with things, like we were talking about here, not just like, you know, someone else telling you. And this is kind of where the episode was intended to go, but, you know, we have tangents along the way. I've been working my best to get my edits done. And I don't think I've mentioned this yet. I told Alyssa, I looked back on my 2022 goals for my business, and I did not accomplish a single one. Like, any of them. My personal goals, they were spot on. Like, they were awesome. None of my business goals hit. I mean, I did finish book 2, but I didn't, like, in my mind, complete it because I still have edits. And so something my husband said has resonated with me and that I just kind of stuck to was, when you're doing one thing, you stick to it. I think Alyssa kind of attests to this too, maybe, of like, when you're working on your course, you stay on that course. You don't go to anything else. You don't look at those other creative ideas. You stay on that one thing and you finish it. And I've done that in the past. And now I feel like I'm burning out because I'm trying to get these edits done and they're not interesting. The characters aren't as interesting to me anymore. It's like, cool, I know the story. I don't want to work on this. So what do? That's my past precedent. Do it anyways. Well, no. Right?
I feel that deeply. Even where I'm at in my business, I have been working really hard to get my program together and get it into this really great place. And there's a lot of technical things and stuff you have to get in place before you can it's not even inside creating the program. This is like ads and how am I going to get people in and reach the people I meant to reach and all those different things. And I'm getting to the point where I should be doing the creative fun, putting the course together, which I have most of the stuff, it's just putting it together. And I'm burnt out. And I realize it's because I'm not being creative. Like you said, I'm not taking that space. I actually just looked up a pottery club locally to me, and I'm going to start pottery. I'm going to start something new. That I have something that I'm going to every week so that I have a creative outlet, because I just sit and stare at my art supplies and don't ever do it at home.
Yeah. I've been reading to the kids more and working on cross stitching and like those little random things. But I've had this story in the back of my head kind of just playing. And so when I told my husband today, I was like, actually, what you told me, because as a writer, and I'm sure, you know, Alyssa, as a business owner, you have this too, you're like, but this idea is cool, and this idea is cool, and oh my gosh, I got to do this one. And so, like, as a writer, I have all of these stories, all of these mini stories I could jump into, and I'm trying to tell my husband about them. And he's like, do the first one, finish the first one, which is valid, right? Like, it is totally valid. But when I feel like you've gotten to that point where you have done the outline, or like the whole structure, like Alyssa's talking about, the whole big thing, and you're like tweaking those final parts to get those ready, you have to tap back into the creative part so that you can come back to that clear-minded. Mm-hmm. Because, taking that space from whatever you're doing, allowing that creative energy, because rest is important. I feel like Alyssa and I've rested a lot. We're still tired, but like, as far as like,
yes,
business-wise, we've rested, but we're missing the creative part. So that's like me, I'm going to start working on that book. And then, you come back, and not only do you feel more energized because you're lit up, you're able to approach it with just a different mindset of, I didn't see that before. Or maybe I could add this. Like when you're working on something else, maybe this would be cool.
Ideas just start flowing.
Yeah.
When you unlock that creativity and give yourself permission to do it, the ideas just start popping up, and it births into something even more beautiful than if you were just to put your head down and do it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, the pitta is really good for that when you do, because there are times when you do need to put your head down and do it. Because you can't stay in that vata forever. You do need to, at some point, finish what you've started. Well,
boom,
if that's your goal. Like, if that's your goal, too. Like, if you've started something, you're like, this is no longer in alignment, then no, right? Like, there is a lot of benefit to walking away from that. But if it's your goal to finish it, and it's something that you are truly committed to, yeah, the pitta's like, okay, I got to get my ass in gear. Like, this is actually really important. And I feel like that's difficult for Alyssa and I sometimes, because we're excited. We're going to have the person who works with us and is also a friend and author. It's my Southern coming out. We're going to chat with them later on this year to kind of like hear their perspective on honestly how working with us is, because we've heard a lot of, they enjoy it, because we're such a relaxed, I almost said couple, like,
I mean, yeah.
Relaxed, like, not group, I don't know. We're just relaxed. Our business is relaxed.
Don't put a label on us, Tara.
I don't know. But we are. We're just like very relaxed in what we do and how we approach life, I feel like. Because we're so burned out of other people just being so controlling of things.
Well, we've also talked about it. Like, we're burnt out on this stupid perfection. It's okay to have a spelling mistake. It's okay for it to not be perfect. It's okay to learn and grow. And it's okay to pause. It's okay to need to, like, take time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I mean, I had to catch myself because I bought some little hot tamales today because I wanted some. And
interesting.
The little candy. And I was finishing the boys' drawers because I painted them. And I went and bought these awesome handles, and I didn't count. I had it in my mind, like, I need to go count this and check this before I left. And I did not, like, at all. And so I bought everything wrong. The sizes were wrong. I bought not enough of anything at all. And so a couple of weeks later, I finally finished it. But as I'm doing this, I knock over all the tamales onto the ground. I'm just like, ugh. In the past, I would have been like, oh, fuck. Like, I would have been so mad. Elias, and I was in a not great mood. So Elias yesterday, my third, was so excited. He's like, I want to pour my milk. I can pour my milk. And he didn't realize how full it was compared to the one he had poured previously. And he was like pouring it up, and it just like went everywhere. And I caught myself because I was super annoyed. I was already annoyed too. So like it plays into it. Really proud of myself because I wanted to be like, what are you doing? Okay, fine, whatever. Like it's not a big deal, but that would have been my initial reaction. And I even thought that
anytime my kids do, I have to really, and sometimes I'm not perfect. Like,
exactly. Sometimes I'm like,
I slip up. Mm-hmm. Yes. It is so difficult.
Mm-hmm. And I looked at him and I was like, it's okay. You did your best. I will clean this. Because that was my way. Because typically I would want them to clean it up, but I wanted him to not feel my frustration because that's not fair for him to feel that. So that perfection thing is still there. Like, even for just the littlest mistakes, I feel like I'm better about myself. What really sucks is now being better for the kids, because embodying that for others, I don't know. It's just also
weird because I feel like we're, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, for some reason in my brain somewhere, feel like I hold my kids like such a high standard. Like they don't know how to pour milk. They've never done it before. They don't know how to do a lot of these tasks. They've never done it before. They're having these impulsive thoughts. Like we talked about, I can't remember what episode, where you just smack the flour, like the cooking flour, and watch it go everywhere. They have thoughts like that come through and they don't know how to filter that out. And so they just do it, and you have to teach them. And
for kids, people, but we've been trained, we've been taught with like ADHD. For kids, we realize like we literally have to lay it out for Dominic, probably Elias too, who have ADHD, because they don't have that forward thinking of like, this affects this, because you're like, treat others how you want to be treated. That's too vague for Dominic. He would not be able to grasp it. Even being like, be kind, that is too vague. What does kindness mean? How can you show up in kindness? Like literally taking those steps by him, because his brain will do it, but not likely, And so it's like, hey, can you go put this up? And he just like puts it on the counter. No, can you go put it in its exact spot, its proper place? And he's like, yeah, where's that? Okay, he puts it in the fridge. Okay, that's fine too. But for the milk that goes on, like those kinds of things, and some of them aren't that big of a deal, but you do have to like lay it out a bit more. And I know that, for me, my brain processes things like over and over and over and have like all of these tasks laid out. And I'm trying to think if I just like where I learned that from, of almost like pre-planning everything to where it's not a mistake.
Yeah, you're very much a pre-planner, yeah.
Almost to the point of like I enjoy some spontaneity, but when it's too spontaneous, there's like anxiety with it. I'm like, stop, please.
Yeah.
I can't.
I feel like I'm the same way. I pre-plan a lot, and then my biggest struggle is being still. We talked about how we're resting more recently, and I feel like I haven't been giving myself permission to create as much, but I feel like every time I sit down, my brain is going a million miles an hour with all the tasks I need to do for my business and for work and, for the kids and for my house. It's like I can't get quiet. And so it's like, how do you begin to open that space for creativity and get out of that? It's almost like a pitta vata. Like I have so much to do, but then it's like up in the air and it doesn't feel grounded. And I don't know.
Yep. I don't know. I heard that people have silence in their head. And I was like,
that's wild to me.
But I
always have like a song or something.
I was like, do people not look at like something in the room and is it not described to them? Because I do tune mine out sometimes, but I mean, it's really like I can look in the room and I'm like, there's a gray tub. There's my stuff. Like,
do you think in words or pictures, or is it a narrator?
It's interesting because it's a narrator, but it happens so fast because I process things so fast. And so when I actually like I see things in front of me, right? And I see them and it's done. Here's my recognition. When I try to like go in front of me is this and this and this and this and this, it's slower than just the like the thought process, right? When the narration tries to come out and notices it, when I close my eyes, I can see pictures better. When my eyes are open, it's not words. Like I don't see physical words, but the words come with the picture, I guess. It's not just like pictures and colors, if that makes sense.
Fascinating. I feel like I get overwhelmed because I do think in images. So when I say I have to-do lists going through my head, I see myself doing them. And so it's like I see myself, it's like my brain is working. I'm literally working and doing the task in my brain without actually doing the task.
Mine is like not writing out the list word-wise. It's thinking the words, but I don't see the words.
Fascinating. I actually just had a really great conversation with a friend of mine, and she was telling me that she literally thinks like she's reading a book. Like she can see the words of what she's thinking in her brain, and that she struggles picturing things. But when she reads a book, because the text is already laid out, that's when she's able to visualize, which is crazy to me. Not to get on a tangent, but it's so fascinating how different people's brains work, operate, and process things.
So when you've been conditioned a certain way, it's difficult to come back what your natural inclination is. if you even can truly, like, I don't know what my natural
what even is
would be. Yeah, like I don't even know what my base would be anymore, because I've been conditioned myself and by other people, right, to what it needs to be. And even then I'm conditioning my boys, and I don't intend to, but in some ways they are influenced by how we do things. That's just going to happen. Like the tapping is so fucking annoying. And I hate saying that because it's someone with ADHD and kids in general. They love to tap, but tapping is like the thing that's like, oh, stop. I hate tapping, and that's difficult because that is just them being them. So that's a balance.
I hate tapping when it's not me, because I also tap, but I don't notice it when I'm the one doing it. But when somebody's clicking a pin or tapping on something, I notice it. That's why I really like my loop earrings or my loop earplugs. See,
I don't tap. Probably because I used to tap and I was made to stop tapping. I do other things like, my fingers something's constantly moving or like doing something, biting my lips.
And I feel like in all of the podcast recordings, I'm just swaying.
That's the thing, is like when I'm thinking or pondering, I'm like biting on my lips or picking at my nails or something like that. Because it doesn't cause distraction to other people. But I was definitely a pin
But it's not great for our body to be chewing the skin off our lips and our nails. So we're actually choosing to hurt ourselves over making people comfortable, which is crazy to think about. Coping.
Masking and stuff, yeah. And so, I mean, it's difficult, like with things like that. I don't want my kids to feel like they have to mask around me. But also sometimes it's difficult for that to even happen. Like for the tapping, it's like it hits maybe it's because it does trigger, I guess. It hits such a deep nerve that if it continues, I'm almost like, I'm so agitated that I don't show up as my best. Right.
I wonder if there's a way you can redirect that. Like you can tap in this circumstance, like on this surface, in this room or in this space, you can do that. That way they can unmask, but have like a container to unmask maybe.
Yeah, but typically they tap when we're in the car. Oh, and it's like an enclosed
when there's nothing to do.
And there's nothing. And Thomas is like using his nails are so long because he's able to grow them. And he just taps the window. And I'm like, oh, Thomas. Then start behind me because he sits behind me. He's like, I'm like, okay, bud.
And it's so loud because I feel like it's not that loud, but it's so like nails on a chalkboard in your brain.
And Dom does it Dom and Elias, I think, but they do it when they're doing schoolwork and they're like tapping the desk, the table, the book. And I'm like, I can't help you when you're doing this. And that's also why I tell them is I enjoy their singing, but sometimes y'all need to go, can you go upstairs and sing, right? Like can you go in your space and do that and that kind of thing? Because I can't handle that at the moment, and I am down here. I don't always want to remove them from like where I am. That's not entirely fair. But like if I'm cooking, I'm trying to get something done for the entirety of the household. Those kinds of things. It's just a balance. It's very difficult.
So when we are overloaded like this, with all the to-do lists and all the things to do. And that's the thing about life. There's always going to be more to do. There's always going to be dishes that need to be done. There's always going to be cleaning that needs to be done, taxes that need filed, all the things. How do you begin to open up that space for creativity?
I feel like it's choosing when you can ignore something that doesn't cause you mental harm, mental frustration, right? So when my house was a legit mess, like disaster, something I never want it to be again. And, that hits a lot of my triggers and trauma of myself of my mom, I don't know if I've ever talked about this. I'm sure I have. My mom doing her best, but my dad not really. I mean, my dad is 80, we're in 2003. He turns 83 this year. So, and mom is 15 years younger than him. And she worked a lot as well and came home and just to dad, he did a few things around the house, but it wasn't his mind because that's not what how he was raised. He doesn't cook his food. He doesn't do any of that. And so mom, the entire responsibility as someone who is also probably ADHD, and I think she realizes that now. I mean, it all was on her. The breakfast, those kinds of things. And it was awful. I felt so mad at her when I was younger for her taking the laundry out of the dryer and putting it on the table as an adult, I get it, right? Like, I understand why there's just laundry in baskets. I get it. But it's still the trauma. And so, like, that's different. But my house was just, like, my upstairs, after having the frozen pipes, and then, like, I just hit this, what was it, like 3 or 4 weeks of just, like, awful, just couldn't do anything again.
Let's preface this. It wasn't just a broken pipe. It was a broken pipe, go to a hotel, another broken pipe,
yeah,
another broken pipe,
it was like 7 days, frozen pipes, and then they burst downstairs, and we had my parents here, and then even after that, I mean, the house was a disaster.
It's hard to recover.
It is, and being pregnant, and we basically, like, the relaxing time that we were supposed to have, we didn't have that. So coming upstairs, there were clothes all over. There were clothes in baskets in the tubs, huge tubs, all over our floor. And it took me weeks. And finally we had somebody come and clean the bathrooms and stuff the other day, and I was able to get that. So when I say, like, it doesn't cause you, like, mental frustration, mental harm, to me, I couldn't be creative. And maybe I still should have, and I tried some, but seeing my space like that literally just drained every ounce I had, because that was pressing on me so much. Right now, my house is not perfect, but it's untidy versus, like, disruptive.
It's lived in. Let's rephrase that.
Yeah. And I mean, you notice that, and it's fine. It can take, like, I don't know, 10 minutes really quickly, and it's done. Those are things when it's like Alyssa said, the dishes always need to be done. You always need to sweep because there's always dirt. Dirt always comes in, or vacuum. The toilets especially with boys, will always need cleaning. It's just disgusting. It's like those kinds of things.
And especially right before you sit down.
Yeah. Those kinds of things you can put on the back burner. When it's like a huge, mountain of stuff, and you feel like your brain is going to just explode or implode, that's difficult. I mean, how do you find creativity in that? I struggled with that. I don't have an answer.
I don't have an answer either. It was more of just, it's more, and I almost feel like that question should be a prompt for our challenge, right? Because it's going to be different for everyone. Yeah. My way of creating room for that creativity I mentioned earlier is, signing up for that pottery class. It is something that I get to leave my house and go do. And I feel like part of my creative block has really come from, I had my back injury and I couldn't do pole and lyra anymore. And that was where my creative outlet was in that dance and that movement. And my body can't physically do that anymore. I tried to do yoga the other day, and then I felt like I got hit by a truck and my body wasn't ready for it. And so it's understanding where I'm at right now, where my body's at right now, and what I'm capable of. And so I know that having these art supplies here, staring at them, yes, I could probably try to make myself do it, but I don't want to clean up the mess. I don't want to deal with it. So for me, it was finding a class, something outside of my home to go and do, where I don't have to worry about my kids coming in and messing it up. Not that I love doing art with my kids, but I want a container where I can create something and not have to worry about it being broken, or somebody coming in the middle of the process and smashing it.
Or even like someone needing something from you. Like, it is literally just your time and your space. And also, I kind of want to point out, like, what Alyssa's talking about is with the painting and things like that, that's like very Vata creation, I feel like. The pottery, Alyssa's very much of a grounded person. You're playing with, like, dirt and clay. Like, you're literally
excited.
Yeah, that's a very grounding way for you to have that Vata creativity is what I feel like. So that's almost more of what you need, because it's grounding, but it allows you to create. So, I mean, in that sense of, like, you get to find what that creation can look like. You can still do Magic Weaver, I say you. Like, you can still do Pitta type stuff, right? That's like a lot of fire, a lot of intensity, if you're finding the creative power within that, right? Like, it's super exciting and it lights you up. By all means, it doesn't have to be like hoity-toity, artsy of, like,
hoity-toity.
It can be like whatever it needs to be for you.
Yeah, it could be. I know my good friend Adriana loves to get a good coloring book. Like a kid's coloring book, and just giving herself permission to color. Like, creativity could be anything. It could be cooking for some people, even.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to point out too, especially those of us with ADHD, it's going to change. Because, like, we have all these little projects that we start. Like, I have yarn in there I could crochet. Don't want to.
I have so much yarn.
Right? I have cross stitching and I'm doing that right now. Paint. Like there's a lot of things that we're like, oh,
bullet
I did this
journal
for a little bit. Yeah. I restarted mine, so I'm excited for that. That's actually been something that's been enjoyable. But like you're gonna have those things that you have, and it's okay to be like, I have this and I want to do something else. This brings me more joy right now. Because sometimes you just need that new fun thing to bring it back.
And giving yourself permission just to go play and explore. It doesn't have to be, that's the thing about creativity and art and things like that, is it's not something you have to put your head down and complete. If you don't finish it, oh well. Mm-hmm. You'll have space to come back to it later when that energy comes back to you, but maybe your creativity or what your body needs in that moment is something else.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Or what your mind needs.
I feel like kids are really good at that because they are so much in the moment of, I don't want to do that. I want to do this.
Yeah, they just go and they don't even clean up. There's tasks. They just go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. Mm-hmm. It's so wild because I'll clean my house and then within an hour, everything is taken apart.
Well, and that's the thing too, like cleanliness also gives more room, like boundaries and structure give more room for that creativity too. Because the second I pick up Ori's toys, he's like, I wanted to play with that. And it just, the kids aren't as bad because they're older. Like they kind of know what they have and stuff. But Ori's like, oh, that right there, that thing.
Yeah, both my kids, if they come down, like if I don't pick up my house the night before like I normally do, and they come down and it's a mess, they don't really want to play with anything. Mm-hmm. They kind of just want my attention. But if I clean everything and put it away, they're like exploring and pulling out the books and pulling out the different toys and rediscovering everything.
Y'all can probably hear Ori in the background upset about life.
Babies, that happens. I mean, hey, that happens in my life.
Mm-hmm. He's really feeling all the emotions of just, I don't like this, I don't want, whatever it is, and it's just a tantrum, and I love and respect that he feels safe enough to do that. Because I feel like we don't have enough tantrums in our lives sometimes.
Yeah, well, and I can't imagine either as a child or a baby, you can't, you don't know how to communicate. That's all you know how to do is cry, and that's it.
Or scream. I don't like it.
And you just get to be frustrated.
Yeah. More frustrating now, at least for me, I feel like I take it out on others unintentionally because I keep it inward, focused at myself, and it goes in circles kind of thing. And then, especially those closest to me, I'm just like, oh, no, right? Like it's easily coming out that way versus if I just go and scream or go and write about it. It's easier to release that. Tangent Central.
So Magick Weaver, our what'd you say?
I said Tangent Central on this.
Tangent
episode.
Central, but that's where the magic happens. I love that Leslie says that in the next episode. That magic happens in the tangents, and it really does. But to wrap up and just kind of bring it back home, we want you to think about how you can make space for creativity this week or these 2 weeks since we're doing bi-weekly. So you have 2 weeks to make room for creativity and really let that digest and sink in. And I encourage you to think about it every day for these 2 weeks. Just ponder the question before you take that step to do it.
Definitely.
This concludes another episode of our Weaving Magic podcast.
We release one episode a week, so be sure to subscribe to catch the latest episode as soon as it releases. You can find us on Instagram at Weaving Magick Podcast. That's Weaving Magick, Magick Podcast.
We would also love it if you could leave us a review. If you do, make sure to email us your review so we can send you a thank you gift. Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to find a way to weave magic into your daily life.